And action! Hi everyone, it's Dr. Saguil here. I haven't done a video in a while, sorry, but I am back. So Parth had a question on what is healthy. Being 20 theoretically is healthier than being 50. So if this is the first time you're finding me, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the alert button to find out when I put out more videos. So what is healthy? There are some expectations. It kind of depends on the age group. It all depends on if the person's married, depends on a couple of different variables. But the objective is when you come in for a wellness exam, it's up to the provider to extract the right bits of information, put together a picture, and with the picture analyze what's wrong with this picture, where is it going, what can we do to change the direction to hopefully manifest longevity and less disease and suffering. So at the age of 20, I would expect, number one, that blood pressure, the typical things, blood pressure, weight, waist to hip ratio is all good. And then I go with the dynamics of the blood tests. There are certain blood tests that I do that most doctors do. I think the cursory blood tests are adequate. That usually is to check thyroid, and it's only one test, but thyroid, kidney function, liver function, cholesterol, which would be a breakdown of total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. And that's usually about it. I see some providers doing vitamin D. I do more than that depending on what I extract from the history. I like to see B12 levels, I like to see magnesium levels. I like to add a couple of other things if there's a high risk factor for heart disease later on or in the family history. I might do a CRP, homocysteine. So there's a couple other things. If there's arthritis, if there's high sugars, if there's acne, if there's problems with rashes, so I might add on to the cursory blood test depending on the patient. That's why it's so important to extract the history. And unfortunately with the time constraints of a physical, I'm supposed to be in and out of the room within 15 minutes, which is impossible to provide proper care. I can provide standard care, but standard care results in standard results. Standard results for a 20-year-old would mean I kind of string you along until the disease occurs in your 50s, and then we put a big hammer on you when the high blood pressure starts, when the weight's too high, when the cholesterol is too high, when the sugar's too high. And I don't suggest that. I would not wait till 40 to 50. I would start to take care of things now. And that's also important is what do I expect for my average 20-year-old? So I think that my average 20-year-old should be able to have a good night's sleep, wake up refreshed. If we're cranky, if we're speeding out the door to catch the train, that's not a good way to start the day. In fact, in the world, the highest occurrence of heart attack in the world usually occurs in the morning on Monday. And hearts don't know 7-day calendars or times, so you wonder why is Monday morning the highest occurrence of heart attack. It's because of the stress. And I think that's because we don't take our time to sit down, have a breakfast with the family, get ready, say goodbye, and get prepared for work. I think we just wake up because we stay up too late watching TV, having a tablet in front of our eyes, or alcohol, and we just bastardize the value of sleep. Which brings me to the next thing. I think that most of my 20-year-olds should be able to exercise. American Heart Association suggests 90 minutes of moderate to intense activity per week. If you're 20, I'd expect you to do more than me, and I do a lot. So I've dialed my exercise into about 15-minute exercise increments 5 to 6 days a week. And it doesn't sound like much, but I'm all business when I get into the gym. And I push hard, getting to a fast heart rate until I leave in about 15, maybe 20 minutes. It takes me longer to drive to the gym and come back than it does for me to work out, but that's all I can afford at this point in time. And I usually wake up about an hour and a half early at either 4:30 or 5. That's just my schedule. But that's all I could do with 50 to 60 hours a week of work. So I would think that everybody can kind of template their time. I would rather have you exercise in the morning because exercising at night stimulates the sympathetic response. And even if you're really tired and you fall asleep and close your eyes and go into unconsciousness, if there's an adrenaline burst that's still lingering around 2 to 3 hours after the exercise routine, then your brain technically won't rest. And that's also, so it's interruptive of sleep. There's also, if you drink water while you're exercising, this fluid shift that makes you want to pee, break your sleep up. I just don't suggest working out in the evening if you can avoid it. If you do have to work out in the evening, then fine, but you have to finish your exercise routine with a breath exercise and slowing down, cooling down, so that you can turn on the relaxation response. Relaxation response is really important, which is my next point. I think that most of my 20-year-olds feel that they're bulletproof. A lot of testosterone makes you feel that way. If you are, and this is for guys mostly, but if you have high testosterone, then usually you can turn on aggression fast. I listen to 90s rock. This morning it was listening to a group called Saliva, Click Click Boom. You can usually, that's how I turn on, it's my morning coffee, at least for the ears. And I can generate sympathetic response fast. But if you don't have a relaxation response, then you should develop one. There's a video down below that I'll put a link to, 478 breathing, that one of my gurus, one of my teachers taught me. I think it's cheap, it's easy, anybody can do it. There's no denominations that you have to be associated with. And it at least initiates a relaxation response. For those of you that practice yoga, there's a pose at the end called Shavasana, and that's when you take all the breath exercise, all the poses, all the isometric holding for the 60 minutes, and you just get into the floor, relax, and enjoy the emotional response from that workout. It also gives you time to reflect and figure out, how am I feeling? There's no pose necessary, and I think it's a form of mindfulness. Now, if you have mindfulness from yoga, that's cool, but you're a prisoner to the schedule of the yoga classes around you. I'd rather have you develop your own routine, whether that's meditation, guided imagery, your own form of a mantra that you just recite. You have to do something. Sometimes prayers at night can be likened to a mindful practice. I think a rosary is a lot more, because more valuable. With the works of Herb Benson out of Harvard, I learned from this guy. He's one of the first forays into mindful practice for me. You can recite a word, sound, thought, or prayer, and you just recite it over and over again, and the mind falls into this a rhythm. And after a rhythm, which is easy to reproduce for anybody, kid or adult, after the rhythm is kept on with, and you're really good at it, you can actually get the mind to focus more on the rhythm, and it defocuses on all the stressors of the schedule, what are you going to do next, the time, the hunger. It defocuses on that, it just stays in the moment. And that's what we have to do, be in the present moment. So there's a couple of different ways. I'll also see if I can put links down below for other things that I've done on mindfulness practice. So at least at night, but I usually do that twice a day, just a short reflection time. Sometimes devotionals in the morning are kind of the same thing. So that's important. So the other thing is timing of eating. So my guys are bulletproof as far as trying to get power through a breakfast and a lunch without eating and just waiting for dinner. That's not wise. If you're exercising and you're doing protein, and by the way, I'm going to do a protein video later for another patient, so check it out. Subscribe again and you'll know when I put them out. But if you're doing, if you're just waiting till the last minute to eat because you can tolerate the hunger, that's not healthy, because what happens is when you skip breakfast and you skip lunch and you just wait till dinner, you've already been famished, and your body initiates a hunting reflex so that when you get home, you eat, but because the brain just thought that it was in a starvation mode in the desert or on a mountaintop with no food, it says hunt for fuel source. And when you get to that fuel source after the trigger has been started, when you get to the fuel source, it'll be very difficult to turn off the eating. You'll overeat, and that's not healthy, because you trigger an insulin response. You'll have insulin dumping after that. You'll hunt again because of that insulin dump in about 2 or 3 or 6 hours later. It just sets you up for a bad cycle. So I really like to embrace regimented eating patterns. So I fast, so I usually don't eat from 9 o'clock the night before till about 10. That's a decent fast in the morning. And I'm avoiding breakfast. But if it's a school-age person or somebody that doesn't have time for regular lunch, you really have to have devoted at least 2 meals a day, I believe. So, especially if you're exercising, you gotta put the fuel sources in, unless you're trying to cut down, but then you're gonna be hitting the wall with too much exercise, not enough fuel, so be careful. But I expect regularity, whether it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or if it's breakfast and dinner. I think it should be regular. So it kind of depends on the patient. That it's tough to put a prescribed nutrition practice for everybody because I have vegetarians. I'm vegan in addition to fasting, but I have keto proponents. I have people that do paleo, modified paleo. So I think that once you have a mindful practice as far as eating, that's the most important thing, because if you're standard American or you're waiting to be hungry, I think that's dangerous. And if you just look around, usually half of America to 2/3 of America is overweight, and with overweight comes diabetes, high blood pressure, and cholesterol, and then after 5 years of that comes heart attack, stroke, and cancer. So you have to be careful about where you're going, and that's why it's so valuable to have the guidance. When my guys in their 20s come in, it's really easy because I usually can't find that many diseases, but I can find holes in the planning, in the lifestyle. And I think if we take care of the holes with education, and that's what I am, an educator, then you can get into your 40s and 50s without having to rely on me or my other colleagues for multiple medicines and procedures. So I think in a nutshell, and I also suggest that you have to be in love, you have to hold hands, and you have to take time out. I think a once-a-year vacation is very important, whether you go outside of the country or just pick a national park. It keeps you engaged, because prioritizing exercise and eating right and proper sleep is tough when you have to work your way up in the work environment. It's easy to put that down, but if you at least have a goal that you're going to be obliged to come with me on one of my hikes in a national park in like 6 months, you're going to have to train your ass off and eat properly and not wait till the last month. Anybody that goes with me to one of my excursions, if you're going to fall behind because you haven't trained or you don't have the right equipment, you're going to hold the whole group behind. So that's not allowed. So anyway, if you're on your own, pick up a spot in the year, put the money away, buy the ticket, and start working your way up to that point, because it keeps you engaged, it keeps you accountable, and you have something to look forward to versus getting through a Chicago winter and just wait until tax day, wait until summer, and then having fun in the summer. No, plan it out ahead of time. It sounds like it's very obsessive compulsive, but I just gave you that because I'm the coach. You don't have to worry about the details. You just have to maybe take the information I give and make it fluid. So hopefully this helps, Parth, with giving you guidance on the value of an exercise routine, the value of good eating, the value of sleep, and falling in love. But maintain good health, and we don't have to have long, lengthy discussions or videos in the future.